Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first Midnight Philosophy live stream. It's been a long time coming, but you know how that procrastinator perfectionist complex goes. So, yes, Midnight Philosophy, a podcast that hopes to make space for conversations, unscripted conversations about faith, the search for meaning, and the questions that haunt us in the dark. So today I am excited to be joined by a fellow Twitter Catholic, Paul Anthony Hoti, screenwriter, podcaster, all around cool dude, and he's joining me to discuss our faith journeys and an assortment of topics. Welcome, Paul.
Yo,
How's it
howdy.
going? Thanks for being the first guest on these live streams, or guinea pig, sacrificial lamb, whatever you prefer.
Oh, I've been waiting since we met 2 months ago. I'm serious. It's whatever what we're about to talk about. I would say is one of the probably the premier issue in the Catholic Church in America, at least. So and it has deep implications for. Do you live in America? You live in America?
Yep, I'm in the Midwest right now.
Does I never clarified that. Yeah, it's going to affect the country again.
Mm.
What we're sort of you know what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So
But thanks for also being very supportive. I know that you've been really enthusiastic about collaborating and help kind of
yes,
motivate me to just get started because I was definitely locked
get
into
started.
that,
Let's
that
do
you
it,
know
man.
that perpetual perfectionist and always in that
Yeah,
preparatory phase. um yeah, but it's cool. It's also a good opportunity to show the haters out there that my channel is not AI commentary. I've definitely had that where some people think some of my video essays are just AI slop, but no, I'm actually a real person.
real.
I
Yeah,
put a lot of effort into scripting my video essays and having kind of a cool, calm, collected voiceover for presenting various ideas and questions. So I am a real person. I just for the sake of anonymity and protecting my identity, I appear as a static photo with a sonic waveform. It's just
is
it's
that
a
you
privacy thing.
though? Is that you in that photograph?
No, it looks somewhat like me. I didn't I didn't design the my avatar to look super different from me. It's pretty close to a real life representation.
Okay,
But yeah,
because I just said
if you want to see the real Midnight Philosopher people, that's going to be behind a paywall.
paywall. Yeah,
I'm,
it's
I'm
twenty
half
dollars a
kidding.
month club.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
All right. Looks like we've got pick and choose in the live chat. Very cool. Good to see you, pick and choose. All right. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna turn it over to you, Paul. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and also just maybe so we put tonight's conversation in the context of like both of our human stories, like what brought you to the faith, and just give us a little bit of who you are.
Yeah, I'm just so I'm homeless right now. So just once I clarified before we went on air, but I guess I might tell them I'll be. I might have a trick up my sleeve. I just say like, "Hey, I'm on air. Sorry, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't move. I'll be out of here in 2 hours. Believe me, it's too
Mm-hmm.
late. I can't move. Yeah, that's the. So I'm from what is how do you? It's a great question. Yeah, I'm from New York City and just like a guy. I'm like a white guy. Uh, I went to school for screenwriting and then high school history, and well, now I'm homeless. But it's such a mess at this point, which is also kind of what I'm here to talk about. Well, probably I was raised Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I fell away during the 2010s because it was just a very secular time, and then my best friend converted or reverted back to Orthodox Christianity in 2021, and you sit with that for a year, and I couldn't answer why I believed in good things
Mm-hmm.
without a God or God, like the Yahweh, the one, the Abrahamic God. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I should. And all the stuff I loved was Christian influenced. So I was like, well, time to. I love the comic book movies. I love Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and that sort of good and evil thing. That's Christian. or at least broadly, it's Abrahamic at least. But there's a unique Christian character that I don't know if you'd find in Islam or Judaism. I'm a pretty pluralistic guy. I don't. It's common on Twitter, especially Catholic Twitter, to kind of shit on other religions. I choose not to do that. Just not into it. But there is something, I do think the Christian religion is uniquely true. And if we go further, I think the Catholic aspect is uniquely true. It's the most true. So I hope that.
Yeah, no, that's
I
really
got a
cool.
long story why. Huh?
Oh no, it's cool to get some context on your own journey.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, it's that in terms of my situation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's such a when you're in a situation like I am, it's just boring to retell it. But rest assured, the Catholic faith is definitely helping. I'll tell you that much. Which is part of which we get into later. But I am one of my I guess more. I'm a huge political nerd. I'm a totally obsessed. But one of the things I think our more conservative people in the country have right is, if you get rid of religion, you're going to cook your whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're already seeing that in very interesting ways. But that is one of my more conservative coded beliefs. Because the pluralism thing, that's more liberal, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But that is where it's like you got to have some foundation religion where it's, again, I think you're already seeing, again, if you have the opinion, we'll get into that, but I am of the opinion things are not good right now in America. You do believe it or not, you have some people who are like, no, things are fine. Like, so, I mean, hey, I don't want to yuck your yum if someone believes that, but I am of the opposite opinion.
Yeah. No, that's let's unpack that. I think that might lead into some of our other topics about America being in a pretty bad state, and also just this tension between needing cultural cohesion, but also I think the pluralism it comes with a lot of beautiful things, and it comes with a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
So maybe get us started with that topic, and then I'll jump in with my commentary. But why don't you get us started with the tensions between pluralism and the need for social cohesion in our country?
I mean, I've had to deal with that because I've been torn between. I was volunteering with DSA for 3 weeks,
And DSA is
also
Democratic Socialists of America, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. And a lot of my friends on Twitter are full on like rightists, or basically the slur would be fascist. It's not entirely accurate, but it's more accurate than not accurate. So and that's a Catholic thing, truly. I will talk to absolutely anyone. I don't do the whole, I was a Democrat my whole life, and I still am registered, but what they did for decades was they kind of, if you had a divergent opinion on fundamental orthodox parts of the Democratic platform. I'm not talking just abortion. I'm talking like MLK, immigration. You were thrown out of the party for understandable reasons. I totally get it, but I don't. In 2026, I do think cutting off the rightists from the political conversation, it didn't work. Nick Fuentes is more popular than ever. So now you could argue, it's because we didn't cancel him hard enough. And it's like, I don't know about that. I mean, he's been plenty canceled. Him and his friends, and there's older people in his movement, we've canceled them for decades. They're still here.
Yeah.
But that aside, so that's a Catholic thing for me, where it's like, all right, let me take people who a lot of people would argue are evil. Let me take them seriously and see what happens. I know why, because you asked what's the beauty of pluralism, or you kind of hinted at it.
Yeah, it's like there's the tension between the beauties of pluralism, and there's a richness in our culture that comes from pluralism, but there's also these real tensions.
A lot of these guys, I think it's their fatal flaw. They just can't understand why it would be cool to live in a place where you the polity. I live in New York City. The phrase is people speak 800 languages here,
Mm-hmm.
and they just don't get that there is a certain beauty to that. That they just don't get. They can't. They they mention a lot about how the left doesn't have a theory of mind. And it's like, well, yeah, but you don't have a theory of mind. People, I guess, like me, and people who are much more to the left, like they just don't get that. When they see like a Mexican taco place, they
Mm-hmm.
don't get angry. They don't, or when they see a church full of Hispanics or Filipinos or a mosque, they just don't get that. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like So, but yeah, there's the tension there is not. It's with pluralism. Not everyone. The question would be, if you're not a pluralist, what happens to you? Like, can you, if you don't consent to it, what do you do? And that's, I actually think I'll pause there, because I think that's the big question: is what if you say, look, in all good conscience, I want to live in a majority white neighborhood or city,
Mm-hmm.
or country.
Yeah.
What do I do? Because we clearly don't have that anymore. Like, what, and keep in mind, that's not every conservative, but it's a tension in their own movement, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have Ben Shapiro and then you have Nick Fuentes. You have Joel Weeben, and then you have Ross. Stop that.
Mm-hmm.
You and then there's moderate versions like Matt Walsh is a breaker. Like, there's no there's very little daylight between what he says and what Fuentes says. Same with Michael Knowles. Less racial, but he's like an authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wants a king. And he doesn't mind if that king is ruthless and is setting down the law. But again, not for every Michael Knowles. You have Robert George. I mean, even someone like Sean Hannity or anyone on Fox News is really funny because this is going to sound mean, but they're just not that intelligent or they're not wise. So they don't know when they're saying something that's more right wing liberal
Mm-hmm.
and when they're saying something that's far right. They just don't know. So they'll say the Democrats are the real racists, and then they'll support, like, what happened to Renee Good? She had it coming.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
just don't. It's like, so.
Yeah. It's kind of. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up listening. Well, through my dad, I grew up listening to like Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly. That whole like Fox was plenty in my
And
household.
when you were
So.
growing up, they were right liberals. There was an element. You could parse it. Like, Rush Limbaugh was more rightist
Mm-hmm.
than some of the other guys, but they were all on like the Democrats are the real racists. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
believe, and it's true. They're not racialists. That crowd in the
Mm-hmm.
2000s.
Yeah, it's my inkling is that the internet and internet echo chambers really accelerated racism and racialism as we know it now, because this isn't like anything I grew up with in the mid 2000s. Um, Going back to your question, let's bring it back to your question was what happens to you if you don't consent to pluralism, right? Just to
Yes.
clarify, before I respond to that question, do you mean like what happens, like what are the consequences for your own life, or what is the rest of society's response to your stance on
Both.
not both?
Both. Both. You have a negative pop. I would say, I mean, it's an easy guess, but my guess is 20% of America is racialist. They really just want a white country.
Mm-hmm.
They just do. What happens to them now?
Yeah.
Do we just tell them to shut the fuck up? Do we shut down their
Mm-hmm.
blogs or and
Yeah.
yeah, what happens on the personal level? Like, what should happen to Joel Weeben or Nick Fuentes or
That's a good
Matt
question.
Walsh?
Yeah. Well, I'll
You
answer
know?
it first from a personal level. I think that well, I just to also reveal about myself, I'm kind of multiracial. I mean, my parents originate from Asia, but in terms of our ancestry, we're kind of a mix of a bunch of different things. So I've never particularly I've always been in a strange predicament where I often feel too American and westernized for the Asian side of my culture, and I'm also sometimes too Asian for the Western aspects of my culture. So I've always kind of existed in this middle ground. And now in like my mid 30s, I kind of think that there's a certain beauty and richness that you deny yourself when you resist pluralism. And
Yeah.
it's that's not to say that you can't have the traditions that you prefer or the cuisine that you prefer or the religious practice that you prefer. I think to have a strong preference for what you actively integrate into your personal life is absolutely essential. You know, you can't just be entirely amorphous. I think you do have to find the things that are worth committing to for yourself in your personal life. But in terms of broader society, you know, I think I'm gonna highlight our buddy Pick and Choose's comments that to resist it is kind of um, there's this it's kind of like consenting to it's not consenting to the tide or photosynthesis. There's um you know with that's kind of the reality we live in right now, and we can't put it back in the bottle. The genie's out of the bottle in the sense like with the high speed transfer of information, with the advancements in transportation, and everybody's just moving around the globe. And obviously, as
Yes.
Americans, we're seeing this as people coming into our country, but Americans are also going into other countries. You know, lots of Americans are settling in Philippines, for instance, or other parts of maybe Canada and Asia. You know, I know maybe proportions are a bit different, but humans are just much more mobile now, and especially with various work from home arrangements, you just have so much more freedom to choose where you want to live and what suits your temperament. And I don't think there's any more going back to countries that are relatively homogenous. Um, I don't think we can go, and I'm not sure it would be wise to recreate a history that's no longer, yeah, it's a thing of the past, and we can continue to be nostalgic about it, but I think we have to sort of come to grips with reality as it is now. And that's not to say it's perfect. Like I don't mean to romanticize the pluralism. There are going to be pretty strong cultural conflicts with maybe people of incompatible temperaments and incompatible practices learning to coexist, and that's just kind of like the new frontier for our age, I would say. um
Yeah,
I'll
and
stop there, and then I'll let you kind of chime in.
well, I want the real reason I am here is I actually wanted the more. Well, I guess we'll bounce around. It's
Yeah.
fun. We had an invert. I wanted to talk about the sexuality stuff
Yeah.
and the racial stuff, but what I find it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, the tension you mentioned, that is the fundamental tension of our times. It is, we are now, I would say, 200 years in the modern.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people want to go back. And that's the fundamental tension that we're all kind of living with. So, let's wait. Anytime I look to my left, someone might pop in. But I don't think so. But that's essential, I think, the central question of our age. It's interesting. So, I'm going to mention his name.
Mm-hmm.
Father Chad Ripperger,
All right, let's bring in the big
your
guns.
mortal, your greatest enemy, your Joker
Yeah,
to your
my
Batman.
yeah, he's my arch nemesis.
I have so many questions about that, but one of the things I got wrong, and I like to be right,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things I got wrong about post 2024 America is I thought the Trump regime would be more outwardly Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It's more racialist than anything else. It's not like you have President David Duke, not President Chad Ripperger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that is just an interesting inversion, I guess. I did not see that coming. You know, because you know what, because strategically, religion can bond multi ethnic a multi ethnic country, in the way race just can never, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not meant to, obviously. And I thought, again, I guess like you said, we're already here. We already have the multi ethnic thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
To dive into full racialism, which is what ICE kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
It, there's nuance there, yes, but the people, but like Stephen Miller is a racialist. Like he reads all. I know the stuff he reads. It's racialism.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you hear it like all of his talking points you could read on Jared Taylor's American Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole like after Renee Good was shot and killed, he was on CNN and he's going. Jake Tapper's interviewing him, and he goes into a rant about in 1965, Hart Cellar opened the doors to the West from the the evil East, and they brought their crime and their disorder and Jake is like it's a very funny moment because he really he does that what are you talking about? But yeah, and that's I did not expect that. I thought you were gonna see I guess a lot more like Iran, like Khomeini and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not like Jefferson Davis, you know. But I'm going to turn this on to you in a minute. But my issue with Chad Ripperger right now, again in 2026, is his form of politics is leading right directly to Jefferson Davis, Jared Taylor, Stephen Miller, and I don't think he knows that, or maybe he does. Bishop Barron, I don't think I guess you know who he is, right?
Oh yeah. No, Bishop Barron's. It's if you're a Catholic that's just keeping track of the mainstream, it's hard to miss Bishop Barron.
Yeah, and that's the funny part is he is now he just did an interview with JD Vance, and it's like, all right, I mean, you gonna go dig up George Wallace next?
I have to admit, for a long time, I was really in denial for a long time about Bishop Barron kind of drifting further into the Daily Wire crowd and being more of a rightist, but I think especially the last 2 years, I can't keep my blinders on. He's picked his side, and it's just I wish he wouldn't be so coy about it. I think he should sort of just admit where he stands, and that would be so.
I don't look at. I talk to everyone. I don't like Bishop Strickland. You know who that is?
Oh yeah, the guy in Texas that had his fact. He was kind of demoted because. I forgot the exact official reasons, but from my perspective, he was demoted because of insubordination.
Yeah, called him a heretic.
Mm-hmm.
Pope Francis.
Yeah,
and it's just say it. Because if you're being coy about it, if you're like, oh well, I see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, brother. I don't know, man. It's like after Vance, he said again after Renee Good was shot and killed, Vance goes up immediately and says she was a radical leftist terrorist, and it's like whoa, just going right out there with the full Franco, huh? Full Mussolini.
Yeah, it's crazy though, how many of those like Groyper types are unabashed Franco boys, which is wild.
That's the other. But here's the thing. Now my question, and then I shall now turn it to you. This shall be my last statement before we turn it to you and your enemy. I don't. If you have Chad Ripperger's worldview, I don't know how it ends other than Franco.
Mm-hmm. And maybe give us a couple of reasons why you think Chad Ripperger would lead to Francoist authoritarianism?
Because his whole world. I mean, you talk about this a lot. It's beautiful how it's a fear of hell, and everything's fear. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. And look, the left is right. They kind of pick up on that instinctually and go, "That's a fascist." If every word out of your mouth is no, bad, no, bad. You mentioned it there was an interesting dialogue with Saint Michael prayer. It's actually true. It does inoculate you into thinking that there's a spiritual war going on between good and evil. And And again, I would have more respect for Ripperger if he just said it. It's like there's no limits to this war. You gotta get, you know, you have to be ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he'd ever admit that, or if he'd get angry at that suggestion that he's some fascist light preacher. But again, with that kind of harsh, I've known about this. I got into studying religion because of how it felt like our country was turning back to a more conservative country. After, again, like decades of Obama and Bill Clinton and Jon Stewart and all that stuff, it felt like we were going backwards, and I wanted to know why. And yeah, there's something in the hardcore traditionalist worldview that makes it like you got to get it done. If there's an abortion clinic, you have to handle those people. There's a drag queen story hour, which, by the way, again, Ben Shapiro is very funny to me because he's like, oh no, anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, the way you treated trans people for like 6 years, where did you think that was going to lead?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just trained a bunch of fascists. And you're like, whoa, like, impossible. Like that, yeah, I firm, and I'm a conservative. You could guess my view. Well, trans, I'm actually interesting on. I'm not a fan of abortion. I think gay marriage is less than ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty anti-feminist, just personally. But trans is interesting because that could, if you have a thing in your head that says you're a girl or you're a boy and you're not, I don't see the big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an easy punching bag for the right, and they just went on every day, like literally every day, like it was ridiculous. And I do think that's a big, it's so quoted, it's such a cliche, but there is truth to that. Like, first they came for the trade unionists, but I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the socialists, and then they came for the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
But it is pretty, I mean, it's a really good, I mean, you want to talk about what pluralism and liberalism and what it's good for, that is a pretty good sum up, Is like, yeah, if you make it so one class of people is treated like shit, even if it's a small class of people, you are creating like a computer virus that will get turned on everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I'm gonna comment on. Yeah, I was hoping. Sorry, I got a little distracted because I was trying to figure out like the chat highlight thing because I wanted to highlight something that our buddy Pick and Choose in the comments pointed out, which was that the spiritual mindset. I'm trying to scroll to find it, but something along the lines of the spiritual warfare mindset really damages our psyche. And Craig in the live chat also says you can throw out spiritual warfare, blame it on demons, and it's impossible to disprove. And it's sort of and because like spiritual warfare and this fear of the demonic is so baked into Western culture because of our Christian heritage, you almost tap into something primal. It's even if you're not, let's say you're not really practicing traditionalist per se, but it's almost like there's a kind of genetic memory just because it's in our shared mythos and it's in our ethos that. And it's when you put things in a cosmic framing, it's a powerfully potent tool for radicalization. And I think that's...
And you know what? I see it on the left too. I know I sound like one of those like left types, but there is some. And look, you saw it with Plattner this week. Not saying he dropped out. That's my point. Is without getting into the specifics of that, the way people are now talking, again, women, and for reasons I totally understand, the way they're talking about Plattner is like he's a demon. Like he was revealed to be a demon. And it's maybe what I get it. It's just I'm just more pointing out the language itself and the reaction's interesting. Because it could have just been like, all right, I guess he's a drunk. He should drop out. It was like, I feel so betrayed for platforming this guy. This is horrible. This is this is evil. And it's like, wait, like, um, and like conservative, like I'm talking right liberals have dealt with that for decades. Where if you said you support abortion, you support life, you'd be treated like a demon by the American left.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, you're right. It's very powerful. Very. I mean, people say that it's. I've read that it comes from the Puritans. That's a common theory in America, that the puritanical nature of it influences both left and right in America. So, but that is interesting. It might just be. It just might come to us from the Christian tradition. The idea
Yeah.
of like the spiritual war and the demons are out to get you, and sometimes they get one of maybe the person next to you, maybe you are a
Mm-hmm.
demon.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think the stuff about Chad Ripperger and demonology is a good linking point between a couple of our topics. One being the polarization in our country, and the type of mentality that leads to kind of authoritarianism or
Yeah.
fascism.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that, but it's also it's at the heart of like the neuroticism about the erotic. Just because when you tie in all of the complexities of the human experience with sexuality and intimacy and all of that stuff, and you tie it in with a fear of demons and a fear of hell, you drive people crazy, and you also make them ridiculously paranoid and judgmental about people who don't adhere to a rigid way of life. Because now it's not just about looking for the path to human flourishing, but now it's about self-preservation. Because you could be, if you're on the wrong side of this argument, you're going to a bad place for all of eternity, which is, I think it completely warps people's thinking. It constricts conscience. Throw compassion out the window because empathy is now a weakness, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's
They
it's
say it
done
that way.
untold. I think it's undone untold damage.
Oh, and that's why I said if we get a Franco in this country, you bet that it's partly because of the Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Even if they don't support the racial stuff, even if they don't, it's just that level of thought. Again, even if the regime doesn't end up being like trad or traditionalist, that the authoritarian part of that, like there's good and there's bad, there's
Mm-hmm.
really bad. Yeah, no, for 100%. Like if that's how it goes, look, Bishop Aaron owns it. Chad owns it. Because it's like, did you not know what you were dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
Like people warned you. Many people warned you that if you go down this path, you're going to get Hitler, you're going to get Mussolini or
Yeah.
Franco or anything like that.
I think there's
So
a
for
kind
sure,
of, and I'm susceptible to this too, but I'm kind of resistant, even still a little bit resistant to the comparisons of, like, Trump as Hitler, just because of the severity of Hitler's crimes.
Hindenburg,
Like, right,
yeah,
like there's almost a kind of, if you're kind of a little too reckless about making the Trump Hitler comparison, you almost diminish the severity of the
you
Holocaust, and
do.
you diminish the
Oh, they
severity,
cooked it.
right? On the one hand, so that's why I've always been resistant about the Trump Hitler comparisons. However, in terms of rhetorical style, in terms of preying on people's fears and turning people against each other and finding your scapegoat, which for him it's basically people of color and migrants and stuff. And
Yeah,
the issue really is it's proportion. Do we have an immigration problem? Yes, there might. I think we could use secure borders. We could use a better immigration system that doesn't. It filters out the lesser than elements, and it doesn't drain our resources. But to just blanket blame migrants, to demonize them, and to
yeah,
spread neo-Nazi stories like the thing with the Haitians eating dogs, which is a complete
yeah,
lie from Blood Tribe, which is a neo-Nazi group. Like, I think there are certain parallels. I still don't like
yeah.
I don't like the simplistic statement of Trump as Hitler, but there are certain,
Trumpism
there's definitely
is
yeah, it's like Trumpism is
Trumpism.
definitely Hitler-esque. Maybe.
Trump is he's a salesman. He's a dude. I've been doing it. You could compare his speeches.
Mm-hmm.
One speech he'll sound like George Wallace. The next one he'll sound like Ronald Reagan. The next one he sounds like Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
He's a salesman. He just says he's got to make a sale. I got this building. You want a piece
Mm-hmm.
of the pie?
Yeah.
And to make this sale, he was in that world for 50 years. He knows you just gotta,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's like this sell me this pen bit from Wolf of Wall Street. Like, sell me this pen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what do you need the pen for? Huh? You gotta, you don't like the migrants? I want to be president. You don't like the migrants? Let's
Mm-hmm.
cut a deal, huh?
Yeah.
He did it with Social Security. He was like, hey, I want to be president. What do you want? You don't want me to cut entitlements? We're not cutting entitlements.
Mm-hmm.
Not 1 cent will be removed from Social Security. Like that's Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan. It's like, because then sometimes he say, we want the best immigrants. There's going to be at the wall, the Mexico wall.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be, yeah, exactly. Oh, so now I'm seeing the chat. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
more
finally,
like,
yeah, sorry, I've been a little distracted because I've been like obsessively trying to get it to work just to boost the quality of our stream. But yeah,
that's
I wanted
awesome.
to, yeah, but
He's
thanks
a
for like
good, yeah,
carrying the conversation while I was a bit distracted. But yeah, like, why
yeah,
don't you
he's a,
read, pick and choose his comment and react to it?
yeah, pick and choose. Says, I think the Hitler comes more pro various people influencing Trump than Trump himself. He's more of a bigot. Totally true. Stephen Miller is totally Hitler. That's
Mm-hmm.
like just utterly. I mean, it feels redundant to say anymore. You just
Yeah,
if you
no,
put words
Stephen
on
Miller, dude, Stephen Miller is a piece of work, dude. Uh,
he's something. He's certainly something.
mm-hmm.
But Trump is just like, yeah, like people have said, he is whoever he talked to last.
That's yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
another person that once said that was oh, I don't know if you know Secular Talk, Kyle Kulinski. Like
I
I
love.
I
Kyle's great.
yeah, I think he was one of the ones, like, just to give a little bit more perspective on my own like religious and political awakening. Well, I mean, I born and raised Catholic, still practice, not perfectly, but who does, I guess. Um and I think I was just sort of, following the wisdom of my parents, and I was essentially conservative Republican for, basically all throughout college. I think when I was in college, went to a Jesuit university, which I think you and I have in common, right? I believe you mentioned you studied with the Jesuits or encountered Jesuits, and they kind
I
of
like
shaped.
Jesuit,
Yeah,
but you're right. No, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I got into the faith as like a sort of Jesuit kind of
gotcha, gotcha.
like
Yeah,
God is love, God is mercy, God, God wants you. Like that's very different from Chad. Like
hmm
his shit.
I think, yeah, because a Jesuit approach to faith is very much divine love calling you to a sort of,
God is always with you.
yeah,
Just turn to him.
yeah,
He's right there.
yeah, exactly. There's this
Yeah.
relationship and this searching, as opposed to, like, you know you're on a moral and spiritual minefield, and you're in this spiritual warfare situation, and
Oh
everything is just high intensity, high anxiety. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, going to Jesuit university, um I think it just opened my mind to a lot of things. I think I'd mentioned in our own private conversations that I'd burned myself out pretty badly, just being a very serious and thoughtful, pensive overthinker in high school, and burned myself out. But
yeah.
by the time I was in college, I think it just opened my mind to really more authentic and more curious discourse with people outside my in group. Anyway, that's just a long roundabout way of saying a year or two after university is when I discovered Kyle Kulinski and Secular Talk, and he really just opened my eyes to a lot of issues that I hadn't considered before. And even if I still have my disagreements with him, I think he just really broadened my understanding of American politics. He got me to support Bernie in 2016 and 2020. So yeah, I mean, and like any Catholic, I wasn't on board with abortion stuff, but I think the difference between maybe how someone like me would deal with abortion versus how your standard conservative Christians deal with abortion is, I look at abortion in the context of everything going on around it, but they kind of
Yeah.
isolate abortion and treat it in a vacuum. Um,
Yes.
I'd much rather remedy other things like access to healthcare, access to social safety nets, education, all of those things, and improving the economy and the job market. I'd rather create a society that incentivizes having a family rather than penalize women that are making maybe the worst decision of their lives. I don't think anybody in their right minds goes to have an abortion and is all cheerful about it. I'm sure that there's a deal of agony that goes into that decision. So even if I don't agree with that decision, I'm not going to penalize a woman for making the hardest decision of her life. I'm more interested in building a society where abortions become unthinkable because we have the resources to take care of babies that are born without premeditation.
Yeah, Chris Hale talks about that because
Mm-hmm.
he's been asked, like, he's very, like, he's a left wing Catholic, including in all the, like, I don't know what his view is on gay marriage. He supports gay marriage, but if you're a Catholic, that's different than, because technically the Catholic view is you can't get gay married.
That's true.
It doesn't say anything about, it doesn't, there's a distinction between saying, again, we're a secular country, we're a pluralist country, and the church just has no power to ban gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Or, again, now that's a very complicated discussion. I do, because there's, I think, good faith Catholics who are like, no, we do have that power. And it's at this point, it's so irrelevant. It's so like holy 2023.
Yeah.
Like we get Stephen Miller in the White House. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a different conversation. Like we're not shutting down Planned Parenthood and arresting the people who work there.
Yeah.
We're killing migrants. We're rounding up migrants, and people want to do a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Like a lot more. Like
I think
they're not.
migrants and trans people have become the sort of boogeymen, and it's distracting from economic issues and cultural issues that are more pressing, and also like foreign policy blunders. But if we can get people angry at migrants and trans people, then we can continue our corrupt agenda. That's the MO. I'm gonna highlight a comment from Pick and Choose here that he says, "I'd rather make a world where pregnant women don't want abortion than increase the pressures that drive them to the clinic while trying to ban the clinic. The former actually solves the issue," and totally agree.
Yeah, Pope Francis, Pope Leo talked about this. I mean, even Pope, I think all the popes have talked about systemic sin, where the system itself is inherently sinful. And if you want to have a fun, if you want to have a laugh, if you want to have a chuckle, go talk to like a Reagan Catholic, and they'll be like, "Whoa," because Pope Leo has endorsed like Medicare for all and like economy that works for working people. He's endorsed it. I've had a very good friend. You hear it on our podcast that we've done together, where he's like, "No, Pope Leo did not endorse that," and it's like, "Okay, all right, cool."
I want to bring back another thing, if you don't mind, like because you'd mentioned gay marriage a couple times, and you sort of briefly mentioned trans stuff, and that sort of ties into the topic of sexuality and the church teaching. But before that, let's dwell on the hot topic of gay marriage. And why don't you just kind of start with your own reflections, and I'll give you my own kind of reflections on that topic. But yeah, just kind of give more context, give more insight for your point of view on gay marriage.
My view is that gay marriage, it's less than ideal because it incentivizes non-family formation, if you will. Like it incentivizes people staying single and sort of. I mean, I think it is true. So I didn't know this right until I think last year. Grindr came before Tinder.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's bullshit. Maybe that's just a right-wing talking point that I didn't Google, but let's assume it's true. I think it's true. Grindr, it came out 3 years before Tinder, and the accusation from the social conservatives is that gay stuff turns. Now, I think it's cope, believe it or not, but a deeper reason.
Mm-hmm.
But the argument is that gay marriage and gay culture turned dating into like terraformed uh, heterosexual relations into being a gay thing. I think that's cope because for good and for ill, the Christian churches have been feminist since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Only Chad is like the one of the few people who breaks it. And even like most, like I've been to the Manhattan Catholic churches. It's very feminist. You're not finding men, even with women who do follow like the church teachings. Like they're not gonna marry you.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because if it's like what's interesting is just you get Chad Ripperger telling him, I don't know how much he said it. He might have endorsed. I'm just gonna rant now. Well, no, maybe not. I don't know if Chad says he might say one of two things. He might say the church does not guarantee you a wife. The church is there to make you not jerk off sexually.
I don't know, I can't quote directly, but based on what the countless sermons of Father Ripperger I've heard, and also all the trads on Twitter, that would seem to be their chief concern.
But does he also? But here's the thing: is that tied with Chad saying if you're a woman, you should be married by 25, you should have 10 kids or 5 kids? Because if it's not tied with that, and this is what I've come here to say, my friends. I have come here to say that one sentence, which is if you're going to tell young guys to not jack off, and also you're not getting married, I mean, there's so many problems with that. And one of them is going to be like, have fun with closing all the parishes, bro. And the second problem is that it creates a pipeline from Chad Ripperger to Stephen Miller, which is like, fine, if I can't get a wife, I'm a right-wing guy. They're not going to give me a wife. I'll just fucking take a wife. We'll deport the 100 million brown people, and the hot ones I'll marry and have kids with. Boom, problem solved. Like, that's exactly what I'm afraid of.
So if I were to reword everything that you just said into something shorter, you're basically saying that unchecked sexual frustration is leading to some pretty monstrous behavior.
Or it will, and I'm like war brides are a thing where you just invade a town, kill the men, take the women, enslave the kids, and you have a wife now. And I think I did say this to you directly at one point on Twitter. It's like, would Chad have a problem with that, or would he go like, how does he? Well, technically, it is following church teaching.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good impression because he does have that sort of very cold, legalistic.
Cold, yeah, it's well, technically, that doesn't break church teaching the way masturbation does.
It's not a. He'd probably say, well, it's technically not an offense against nature.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, bro.
Yeah, that's one
brother.
Of those. Yeah, which is another rabbit hole. Like the natural law is kind of abused as a trump card, but the thing is they're always kind of shifting goalposts about what constitutes natural law and when they actually apply it consistently. Anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
It's a joke because it's like, Chad, can I take a war bride or not? Because if he says no, it's like, okay, but you have all these other teachings that make you really fucking sexually frustrated. I think I will take a war bride. Shut your fucking mouth, Ripperger, huh? How about that? It's one of two ways. Either Chad, which in that case, I guess bravo Chad for not endorsing the concept of mass rape.
I mean,
but also
he certainly, Chad certainly. I mean, he won't admit it, but he basically endorses marital rape.
Yeah, because the marital debt.
Yeah, exactly. The marriage debt. The way he frames it is just atrocious. It's abusive, and the fact that like he's not been silenced by a bishop is alarming.
The reason, so I think I mentioned this before, and it's the same way as you're not going to see Barron ever, which is I think it's a good thing. It's one of the good things about liberalism and democracy is it does let you say whatever the fuck you want, and it just sort of it's probably my favorite thing about it, to be honest, because I have serious questions with liberalism. I would identify as a basic liberal, but I'm I really I call myself a communitarian or collectivist. I'm not I hate individualism; it's a cancer. But the best quality of liberalism is it's the free marketplace of ideas, and so the idea would be you let Ripperger talk, you let Barron talk, you let Father James Martin talk, you let obviously Pope Francis talks. You have my Archbishop Ronald Hicks. You let him talk. You let the guy in Chicago talk, and eventually it kind of just works itself out. Because if we, again, I do sound like a liberal. It's like if you use this power, it will be used against you. But it is true, you know. Like I wouldn't want to create the precedent of like now we're gonna get again the Jesuits fucking silent, their parish is shut down because they preach. I went. It was very political, which is
You know what? That's fair. Let me revise my point. It's less that I want Chad
someone
Ripperger
should
to be.
say
Yeah,
something. Right.
I would maybe I would say maybe let me revise my statement. Not that Chad Ripperger is silenced, but that maybe someone who holds higher rank in the church would disavow what he says. That this isn't representative of what Catholics want to practice or believe. So that it sort of draws a clear line of this is Chad Ripperger representing Chad Ripperger's version of Catholic tradition rather
Yes,
than.
and they do that with the German bishops because the German bishops are like very left wing, and the church is just like, look, we wouldn't do that. We don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. The message is clear. No churches are shut down. No one's fucking defraud. The Chad Ripperger types love that idea. Like we should defraud people. We should excommunicate Joe Biden. And it's like, I mean,
Yeah. They
right.
really having an inquisition is their ultimate wet dream.
Oh my god, yeah, and it's like, dude, brother, I'm Chad. You're wet. It's like they built the Death Star, and it will be used against them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's true. It's like they built a weapon that will now be used to deport 100 million people. Many of them Catholics, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Oh, it's so sick. It's. Not a.
Yeah.
Oh, Chad.
I'm gonna reel it back into that topic that kind of kickstarted this whole series of topics, but going back to gay marriage, and then we'll kind of link it
Yes,
back to
that's
back
why
to we
should
sort of went down the rabbit hole, but I kind of understand your point of view, and that's certainly the one I grew up with. Just one man,
and
one
it's
woman
here's the
sort of
thing.
stuff. Mm-hmm.
That's my view. I don't mind if there's like gay safe havens. Like New York City's a gay safe haven.
Yeah.
I would not change the laws in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nuanced like that.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, for
anyway,
me, it's sort of I'll start with where I was like 20 years ago. Just I was I think I've never been the type to discriminate or mistreat or whatever. I sort of upheld the church's definition: one man, one woman, all of the open to life, all of that stuff. I absolutely upheld it, and I still sort of view that as the ideal. That
hey, by the way,
marriage
one
is.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
FYI,
Sorry.
keep that. I have to interrupt only because the reason why gay marriage matters is because it is one teaching. It's not marriage is one man, one woman, open the way.
Yeah. So
Everything else is sinful and banned, and you can't do it ever.
Yeah. So I I kind of upheld that teaching, you know, and I was basically a walking, talking catechism slash Catholic answers in high school. But really, I didn't have
Right.
I was barely sentient back then, so I was basically just regurgitating everything that I'd been brought up with. And you know, that's not bad. We all start somewhere. We all have sort of our starter pack, so to say. You know, when it comes to intellectual and spiritual development, we sort of are, whatever our upbringing is, we have a starter pack that we sort of engage with reality, with which we engage with reality. Um, and I pretty much just, you know, always did that. But I don't think I really had any real. I never had a gay friend until maybe undergrad, and then you know further along, I then it ceased being an abstract issue for me. It was, now I have friends who are gay, and all of the
Yeah.
stereotypes are, you know, all of the stereotypes are bullshit. Like they're not trying to enforce their culture on, you know, actively. They're not trying to change me, or into being gay.
Right.
They're not even examining how I voted. We just had common interests. We took the same classes. Our personalities were
Okay.
compatible. Now it's sort of, now I'm not really seeing, you know, us and the gays. Now I'm just seeing human beings that are cool and they just happen to be gay, but that's completely irrelevant to the friendship. And then there was just a lot of opportunities for reflection of, am I denying the legitimacy of their attraction or the legitimacy of their ability to build bonds with others?
Yeah.
And honestly, I just couldn't. It's very difficult to think of homosexual attraction as intrinsically disordered or intrinsically evil, with the exception of, really, it boils down to the you know, the traditional teleological philosophy that undergirds all of this. It's all about the primacy of
It's all or
it's about
nothing.
reproduction. It's about reproduction. And really, that's the primacy of reproduction is the thing upon which all of these arguments about sex hang, whether you're talking about condoms or gays or
Oh,
whatever. It's all about that. And now it's not about, also, tangent, related tangent, but I'm sure you know that, and you've seen me post on Twitter, that the most graphic depictions that I've ever heard of homosexual activity come from the trads. Like I've heard more about butt stuff from trads than I've ever had from all of my gay
right.
friends. And it's just, it's this lurid pornographic obsession they have with the things that they probably are afraid they'd be given permission to do.
It's got
Um,
it. You know what it is? It's not closet gay, but it's for sure, if I had to guess, is someone, oh, TMI. But not, it's just, if you want to avoid jacking off, just become Chatterburger and just condemn all sexuality, all the, like a, you got to make it like a prayer. Like, look at this gay shit,
yeah,
bad. Look at that shit, bad.
yeah. It's just
You
it's
don't
a
do it. I mean,
mhm. It's, yeah.
because,
Mm.
I mean, if you're doing, you're filling your mind up with something, and it's not porn, and it's not thoughts of
Mhm.
women, but it is, and
Yeah.
it kind of works a little better than prayer. I got to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So that's what's going on.
But yeah,
It's frustration.
mhm. But it is one of those things where, on a philosophical level, and also as a Catholic, I understand that, I I understand that there's a certain kind of, it doesn't make sense to call gay relationships marriage just because it's fundamentally different in terms of its
Yeah.
goal. Like you said, like the formation of family in an
Well,
organic sense, right?
it's love.
And I think there's also there is a complementarity about male and female form in nature, and I don't think we can deny that. I think the discourse really needs to shift into just respecting the dignity of gay people and acknowledging that they are capable of loving each other. It's just, it's definitionally different than marriage, and that doesn't mean that they're less than. It's just, we're basically arguing over semantics at that point, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is that, and this is one of the good. This is good news for that.
Oh, hold on. I think you're blocking your microphone because I think your voice kind of came out.
I bet. Oh, how's this? Is it
Yep.
better?
Oh yeah, you're back. You're back. It's
Yeah,
clear.
I was shifting around a little bit. So what you said. All right. So the good news. There's good news and bad news for your position, which is, it's interesting. The good news is the church, once it endorses like even like 1920s feminism, it's kind of over. We It doesn't matter. I don't like. that's kind of where it's almost cynical or grim. For me, it's like, dude, I don't want to hear about the gay shit. It's like, am I gonna get a wife or not? Because if I'm not, I don't really care about the gay stuff. Like, I just, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what the word for that is or the proper metaphor. It's really funny, to be honest. It's like you'll have these trads like Matt. That's got to have been a nickname for him, Matt Trad or Trad Horn. It's just a
Yeah,
Trad Horn,
maybe.
Matt
Yeah.
Trad.
I've heard mad trads. Wait, sorry, I just got to push back on one thing, and I want to ask for clarification. I know that there's a lot of, you've mentioned in our chat preparing for this live stream, that alienated, disenfranchised young men being drawn to the far right, and a lot of that has to do with being an incel or being, like you said, can't find a wife. But
Yes.
how do you navigate that frustration of being alone and wanting to marry and wanting to start a family, but there's the risk that you turn women and turn the idea of marriage into an object and a box to check off. And how do you negotiate that? Because that does become unhealthy when you just kind of, you're laser focused on finding a wife, that it almost doesn't matter the human being that you're looking for, but you just want an outlet for your primal urges, which is extremely damaging. So how do you negotiate that? How do you think people should negotiate that?
I personally, the Jesuit way. God is love. Just turn to Him. Forget about the. And yeah, I mean, again, TMI. Like, so for years, I would not do the Eucharist because I was a chronic masturbator.
Mm-hmm.
I am still a chronic masturbator. I don't do. I try to avoid it, but I take the Eucharist. Chad would say I'm going to hell for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think of it. I don't. I literally, and it makes me appreciate the Eucharist more because it is like, okay, I am a sinner. I need God. I need Christ. I need the medicine. But he would say I'm defiling the sacrament. So yeah, it's the Jesuit way. They're great. We
Mm-hmm.
love the Jesuits. We love. They'll have at their masses. They'll have the person like who's talking to the deaf people with their hands.
Oh, okay. I've never been to a mass with the translation to ASL. That's really cool.
It's wonderful, inclusive, beautiful. But there's got because so just really quick, my issue with Kyle is I think he's an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like my thing with atheism is like if you're a progressive, what's the point then? If there's no God and there's no good or evil, then I don't. I mean, why not deport 100 million people? Now, there's arguments to not do that from an atheist perspective, but I just, you know what? It's a power thing. It's like it's you're more powerful as a progressive if you come at it from a Christian or even a religious angle. Like Don, he's a Muslim. Like he's a Shia 12 or I think he's 12.
Mm-hmm.
Muslim. Like Brad Lander, I think I don't know if he's a practicing Jew, but he mentioned I think he is a believer. I don't know if I think Bernie and AOC, I think they believe in God. They probably don't know exactly. I think AOC has said she believes in the
I think
teachings of the church.
AOC is Catholic. I think Bernie is something like a secular cultural Jew. Like I think he kind of has a vague spirituality, but
Which is all you need.
which I think he expresses in his pursuit of social justice. But it's not really, it's not like there's not really liturgical or
It's something.
ritualistic.
It's something.
Yeah,
I
it's
need
something.
something. If it's not there, I think you reduce your power. It's like a power level. It's like I think the left has handicapped itself. Which I get people have issues with religion. I get the whole like it's not true or it's cruel but if you don't have that grounding, I think it's a total handicap. I think because now there's like, well, what's the reason for all this? Now, if you're a Christian or a theist who's a believer in God and in goodness, that's powerful. We must do this because people have inherent dignity from God.
I'll I'll take your position and slightly reframe it because I understand that point of view, and I would reframe it as up to now, I don't think we found a more comprehensive system to sort of articulate our highest ideals and ground them in something. So,
And I think you'll never find in my that's a conservative thing. You'll
mm-hmm,
never find it. There's no other thing. It's just it's God. It's you can't you're not gonna recreate it.
mm-hmm.
You know, but that's again that's me. That's the conservative
Yeah, no, for sure.
daily wire thing. But I do think that's true.
Yeah. I'm gonna just highlight a couple comments. We got pick and choose. This is going back to the marriage topic about I think most people intuitively associate the idea of
Yes.
marriage
Right.
primarily with a bond, not a reproduction scheme. And to be honest,
Exactly.
well, as a kid, like before, my sexual awakening and my knowledge of all these things came very late just because I was pretty effectively sheltered and homeschooled, so I wasn't really thinking about, prime expression of primal
Yeah,
biological urges and stuff.
I
But
never had a
I always had that intuition of marriage being primarily a bond. So yeah, I think you've
I
got I think we're in agreement with you pick and choose. It's definitely about that. And then also about our most recent topic, he says most human beings don't need some airtight, cold, logical argument to be moral towards others. Most people have human instinct like empathy and compassion. We're a social
so
species. We naturally care.
you know what I say to that? Again, I
Mm-hmm.
dealt this again, this is like 2023 shit. This is
Mm-hmm.
like old news. But in I got very big into the argument of conservatism through God.
Mm-hmm.
And my argument is that will not that will not beat someone like a Stalin or a Mao, who in my well, that's me. That's the screenwriter in me coming out. Like I was working on a project about Mao,
Mm-hmm.
and the interesting thing with him, or with any again great powerful dictator, uh, is they become their own god and they can change the rules. It's like we naturally. What if we don't anymore? Now what? Now I'm God and I make you not care. Now what? You know, if there's no, to quote MLK, the arc of justice, you might not be able to beat a Mao. And I use Mao because stop the Soviet Union's gone. And that's the thing I would say when I was trying to pitch the Mao project is like Stalin's gone, USSR's gone, Lenin's gone, Hitler's gone, Mao's alive. Like you can go to a giant statue of him in China. Why is that? And I think he won. You know, he kind of the argument for China is it proves like if you just throw enough inhumanity at something, you will win. You know, so that's my argument against the atheistic leftism, progressivism. It's like someone will come along and rewrite the rules. If there are no prior rules,
Mm-hmm.
they will come on and rewrite them.
If I had to sort of maybe elaborate on pick and choose's perspective here, that we don't need an airtight, cold, logical argument. I think maybe another way of saying that is most people really do act on moral intuition, and it doesn't necessarily have to be contextualized in a grand cosmic narrative. Although
Probably, yeah,
it
in
helps,
day-to-day life.
it helps if for the sake of social cohesion, but and like you said, without religion or without a unifying system, we lose power, but that doesn't mean we lose morality. We just lose maybe our most important mechanism for enforcing morality or
Yeah,
sustaining it. It's like
because
losing an important tool rather than losing the source of our moral intuition.
the art without God,
Mm-hmm,
um, maybe yeah, I agree with this with pick and choose.
mm-hmm,
It's again, it's an interesting debate for sure. Totally different topic. Again, I would officially. I sound like a politician when I say it, but now is not the time for this conversation. You know, it's like I will work with atheist progressives to beat the fascists. We
mm-hmm.
will figure out the differences later. But that is my view. It's like I'm so not. I like again. It's not. Again, George Wallace is back. What the fuck? You know, like again, the conversation's changed. The reality on the ground has changed. So for all intents and purposes, if you're a Christian conservative and you're not a racialist, you got to go call your atheist friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my view. I mean, and that's what's funny about like someone like Ben Shapiro or Fox News crowd. If they worked with the BBC or CNN crowd, there'd be the fascists would lose. But because of their own priors, the Fox News crowd, if they had to choose between fascism and leftism, fascism.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Oh, sorry. I think your mic might be kind of fading
yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
Anytime, I guess I can't put my hands in the.
It's all good.
That's weird. But
Hey, I think Chad would be happy if your hand is on your mic and not elsewhere.
he'd be very happy. I want to talk about Chad. How'd you encounter Chad?
Oh, that's all right. You prepared for a little bit of a story. I promise I won't rant for too long. But
You should, because
all right,
we
all
can
right. I'll
make
give
this
you.
a Chad podcast.
Okay, all right. I'll put a little. I've definitely. This is something I've probably repeated a lot on Twitter and through various video essays. But yeah, I'll rehash the story. Um, there's one thing that's unclear. I don't remember if I learned about him through the YouTube algorithm, my dad, or a priest that was stationed at my parish. So I don't know the ultimate source, but it was one of those three. And all three of them, the YouTube algorithm, my dad, and this particular priest, were all basically, I don't know who got to it first, but they were all name dropping him, or
Yeah,
he was showing up on
he's
my feed.
popular. They're really
So this was like just around the time of COVID, maybe a little bit before COVID or something like that. I don't know. And it was just, I heard his name. He was popping up on the algorithm, and I had this morbid curiosity. So I started looking up his stuff because my dad also recommended Tim Gordon and Taylor Marshall and Michael Voris from Church Militant. And
oh god. It's
unfortunately,
like
he was
the
really,
League of Doom.
yeah. Unfortunately, my dad was really inclined to those sources. And even though
Hey, I get it.
in the last, let's say 10-ish years of my dad's life, I unfortunately just didn't agree with him on a lot. I trusted his loving nature. He was a really loving guy, really just
Yeah.
big heart. So everything he said and did came from the best of intentions. I never doubted that. But I was also just, I was curious to see what he was looking into, and that's how I first discovered Chad. But honestly, the two things that really just turned me against Chad there were a couple things. One is just his horrific teachings on sex that basically turn marriage into something cold and destructive, and just absolutely a monster to women. But the other thing too, which is a lot more personal, was one of the priests that was ministering to my dad when he was dying, was a Chad Ripperger wannabe, and who would sort of just develop this fixation with binding prayers and exorcism and all of that. And I don't think he intended it to, but he got a little too carried away talking about demons and shit. And he told my dad was like ridiculously anxious before his passing. And ridiculous isn't the, I think everybody's anxious when they face death, but my dad was unnecessarily anxious because I think a lot of that indoctrinated traditionalist like anxiety got triggered by all of that, Chad spiritual warfare stuff. And so I think it's become something of like a personal crusade for me to just like
Oh, that's
oppose,
awesome. That's
like
awesome.
to
No, you're gonna get
oppose like the Chad Ripperger model of Catholicism,
put him in
because
a peach.
so that's kind of like where it comes from. I don't like how it robbed my dad of peace that he could have had in the months before he passed away. And I really I really resist that kind of approach to Catholicism. I think it's some of the most damaging stuff in the church.
That is so cool, and just that's yeah. I never even thought of that. That's what Chad could do. It's true. If you follow that and you're dying,
Mm-hmm.
you're worried about hell until your last breath, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
for me that
dude.
was the moment. Like that was like watching my dad internalize all of that. I think that was really like a moment of, well, I think it was a couple things, just the emotional wear and tear of watching someone you love go through that. But then it's also this confrontation with death, the death of a loved one, and I think that was I mean, I've certainly been to a bunch of funerals before my dad's, but I think when you lose a parent or you lose someone that close to you, death is that much more real, and you're confronted with um this realization of like, we don't have a lot of time on this earth. And are we gonna waste it on the Chad Ripperger model of faith when we could
No,
we could we could have the Jesuit model of faith instead, and that would be a life well spent.
exactly. And then well, Chad would go, well, life is not about you; it's about God. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
get it, but I don't know, bro. I definitely, I hearing that, that's that's awful. That's definitely Chad's gonna pay. We're gonna put him in a crystal. That's a right wing meme, but he could take it.
Mm-hmm.
The left could put him in a. He's got to go in the crystals. He's got to, he's got to go to the shadow realm. That's brutal. No,
Oh
that's
man, was
yeah,
that was a Yu-Gi-Oh reference?
yeah, shadow realm. Yeah,
Oh
because it's
man,
shadow.
oh dude, oh my gosh. Wait, so did you grow up being a Yu-Gi-Oh fan?
Yeah, for a year on. Yeah,
Okay, I
you,
gotta, I
yeah, you,
gotta, I gotta give you another little personal anecdote of childhood trauma. Um,
oh,
so
trauma.
I'll let you know. I will get to it. Yes, so this is probably early 2000s. I was super into Yu-Gi-Oh. I was building my warrior deck because I was all about, that medieval theme. I just man, I kept buying booster packs until I got Buster Blader. That was like, and I finally did. And God bless my dad. He had the patience to just take me to the card shop and get me some packs every
Yeah.
now and then when I was like a 10-year-old and 11. But when I started getting super scrupulous, this is kind of around the time of the like the whole Harry Potter hysteria.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that started getting in my head, and I'm like, shoot, like I really like video games that have magic and fairy tale stuff, and Yu-Gi-Oh has a lot of like magical imagery. It's like, am I unintentionally getting into devil worship or whatever? And it was just the
I
weirdest
had
like.
someone on
Mhm.
Twitter say that. Like,
But
just
it was
shut the
just,
fuck up.
yeah, it was just like unfortunate instance of like, youthful scrupulosity in my trad days. And then, I still persisted in playing it, whatever. I just tried to like barrel my way through the scrupulosity, and then I had a priest come talk to me. This is probably 2005, and he told me to get rid of my deck. And
Okay.
so I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but I didn't completely obey him. So I still have my deck somewhere in the garage of my childhood home. But yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that being like, it was one of those it's one of those moments of just like losing your ability to feel free and your curiosity and your imagination as a child.
Yeah, there's a reason Kyle feels the way he does about like Kyle Kalinske is super interesting because he really is an archetype of someone like the left wing millennial who got into politics during the Bush era, which was very Christian, very war,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean the Reagan stuff was there like in terms of big business and work hard and but really it was like war and God.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kyle's politics are completely against that. And but yeah, that sounds like a story I hear a progressive would say. It's like I never went back to the church after that. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I don't blame you because there were. How old was the priest?
He must have been, I would say, late 20s to early 30s, roughly.
Young guy. Whoa! I was about to
Yeah, that's a whole.
land
So
on the floor.
the order of priests that took over my parish in the early 2000s, they were all really young because their order was founded in the 70s. Now, unfortunately, it's one of those weird
That'll
stories.
do.
So they were founded more or less around the same time as the Legionaries of Christ. So they're a younger order, and unfortunately, they've also been riddled with a lot of the same issues, although at a smaller scale. Like their founder, got caught doing some dirty stuff, so he was
Oh,
but at the same time, it's like it's always a mix that the ones with like these kinds of scandals are also particularly reactionary. Like their theology is very, it's not full on Chad Radtrad, but it's not too far from it either. It's Novus Ordo, but it's got a lot of that trad in their DNA.
yeah, it's everything's a war. I mean, it's. I mean, it's look, it's true. I mean, there is a certain wisdom to knowing you're a bad person, but then there is sort of like work on it. You know, Like, I know the demons are out there because I'm a demon, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it's like, well, what if you weren't, though? You know? That's also a part of it, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I know the thoughts I think. And it's like, well, I don't have those thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect either, though. I'm just saying, it's like, I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like the demons telling me to have sex with all the kids in the church. I cannot listen. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's a demon necessarily.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I this is I'm not a psychologist, so I can't say this with any kind of scientific or academic certainty, but I've long suspected that um, the types of clergy that twist themselves into knots over sexuality are more likely to become abusers because they've distorted their own psyche.
Yeah, no, I've heard. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I can't, obviously, I can't say that from a clinical standpoint or a psychology standpoint, but I'm very suspicious that a lot of these abusers are so distorted by the weight of repression that they didn't develop in healthy ways. And I
That
don't
could be
think
true.
I'm inclined to think that a lot of abusers didn't set out to become abusers, but their brain and their ability to relate to people got so distorted.
Yeah, I could. I mean, there has to be literature because, to the church's credit, they did handle the crisis. You maybe not well, but they definitely there's definitely research into that that's got to be out there that examines like why did the crisis happen. Um, and I think I've read that that's one of the hypothesized reasons is the restrictions on sexuality just can screw with your head.
Hmm.
I think one argument would be that it just you're working with kids, so if you're that kind of guy, like there's a filter bias of like someone who doesn't want to get that's part of it. It's like who would sign up to not get married ever?
Hmm.
It's like that kind of job is going to attract people who have pedophilic or what's the other term for if you're older? You because
Hebeo.
those are two different things.
I think it's hebiophile. I'm not.
Yes, Yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
if, yeah, you're gonna get more of those if the requirement for the job is you can
Hmm.
never get married. It's like who can't get married except someone who wants to marry a 13-year-old,
Yeah, I don't know. So it's
So, or if they're gay. Oh, okay. Well, that's another one is the gay priest for blaming because it's like that's a whole other. That's kind
that's
of
the tough thing with blaming gay priests is, especially in decades prior, they had nowhere else to go because in the
yeah.
traditional framing, it's like you can't get married. But then if you're single and
Uh,
outside in the world, that's
you
too
know
much of
what's
an
interesting?
occasion for sin. But then if you
There
go to,
is
at least if you go to the priesthood, theoretically celibacy is kind of it evens out the playing field because no one's getting action, supposedly.
right, and the thing is, I want to get back to that because it's so important what you said. Like, how does a guy? Because again, we have. I would say I would propose that it is a true statement that there is a marriage crisis in the church. I think there is. I don't. I think we're not getting married enough. That's just what it is. Um, my last confession was actually to a Chad type who told me, "That's bullshit." Because I was like, I told him, "Look, I'm struggling with disliking the church for its marriage practices." And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, that's not true. We just had a marriage last week." Again, it was a TLM church, traditional Latin Mass church. So,
Mm-hmm.
and my last bad confession was from the same guy. So it's like, all right, well. But wanted to get it off my chest. And look, the confession, it works no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So just Catholic advice is if you ever get a bad confession, it doesn't spiritually. Again, it does sound like trap burger, but it's the mechanics of what you're doing spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like it's about the action that the priest is doing, which is forgiving your sins, which he gets from our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we're not getting married, and I think one of the reasons is again the church, for good or for ill, again, you have rightists who say it's for ill. You have liberals who say it's a good thing, and that doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It's just the law. Is the church is feminist now? I mean, Pope Leo just said like, oh, it's a lot of he mentioned how the sexy stuff isn't as important as like other things, such as again the equality of men and women. Now, some would argue that when you have that legal equality, you're just not going to end up having marriages or families. I guess that's debatable, but what's interesting is if it doesn't, like let's hypothesize and say, okay, if we have again 1920s feminism, our marriage rate's going to get lower, family formation is going to get lower. Is the freedom of women and the equality of women worth that decline in family formation? That's an open question. I mean, for liberals, they would say absolutely. They would say absolutely. That's the premier. That is a more important thing to have than large families. But I mean, obviously, for a conservative or a right-wing guy, it's like it's horrific. We cannot. Again, that's if you buy that framing that because there's left-wing, like someone like Kyle Kalinske would say, the reason why family formation isn't happening is because we're all broke. And if we weren't all broke, you would naturally. And I think I want to give that theory a shot. I think because I'm not into the idea of taking away women's rights just because we're having an issue with family formation. It's just not my deal. It's just not because that's authoritarian. They're going like, you will do this, you will, because if not, the bad things happen.
For sure. Let's also unpack let's unpack a few things like the positives of feminism and maybe at least have let's at least stipulate a working definition of feminism for the purposes of this conversation. Like
women, and the big one is women in the workplace and broadly women having the same legal, cultural, and political responsibilities and duties and rights and privileges as a man.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the pre-1920 order,
Mm-hmm.
To compare it, and again, I think this is going to be an issue with the church because before 1920, I mean, the teaching was the man goes to work, the woman raises the kids. That's just on the books. I mean, now you could say, well, we evolved as a church, and that's fine, but it's just that's going to be a contradiction that the church is going to have to reckon with. But I just had to get out of there because
that makes sense.
What did you say? What was your question?
I was just saying let's have a working definition of feminism just so we know we're kind of commenting on the same thing.
Oh yeah, legal, political equality in the sense of women in the workplace, women voting, women having the same share in how society functions as men. Because the old model was, well, the women will tell the men things and the men will consider it. That's distinct, though, from women and men, both, again, voting, working, and basically, again, legally being the same thing. That's the legal, what term you use is legal feminism.
For sure. Okay. I think that...
And the church affirms it. The church, I've never seen or heard, maybe they're out there, but I've never seen a pastor or priest have a homily about telling women, you got to go get married and you should not have a career. And
that's a very trad thing, and then it's also a very far right thing for sure.
They don't even follow it. They don't
in the present. I mean, they don't completely follow it. Like for instance, a good example of that would be like someone like Erica Kirk, who preaches these things but is clearly a boss girl, right? She's not following her own advice.
And again, I'm telling you now, not that I got to tell you, you're aware, but that's going to backfire so badly because you're going to get these young guys who go, oh, if that's what Christianity is, I want Nazis. I want pagans. I want atheists. I want pre-Christian then. Give me Rome. Give me the Germanic tribes. Give me the Aryans because I'm not putting up with fucking Erica Kirk
Yeah.
And no, I'm not putting up with going to church, being told all this trad stuff, and then Erica Kirk doesn't want to actually
Mhm.
marry me. Like she's just as uninterested in me as any other liberal woman.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
Anyway,
kind of take a nuanced point of view, because I let me kind of, again, this ties in nicely to our what the discussion that started the stream, which is about pluralism and how
yeah, because
it's a
it's
threat.
plural.
It's a threat to social cohesion, but at the same time, there's something enriching about being exposed to other cultures, other
Yeah.
cuisines, other ways of life, right? And I think
Look,
in a
someone,
similar way, I think in a
yeah,
similar way, you could consider feminism as a disruption of social cohesion based on
yeah,
traditional hierarchy, right? Because in
yes,
a sort of traditionalist patriarchal society, you have the man as the protector, and sort of he governs everything, and women certainly inform that, but they call the shots, right? And it might lead to you could argue that it promotes better social cohesion, but it also comes with the risk that that system is entirely built on the idea that most men can be virtuous, and that they wouldn't abuse their power, and that they wouldn't be
sure.
shitty spouses, and that because women in a non-feminist society, they might marry the wrong guy, get stuck in an abusive relationship, they have no property rights, they have no voting rights, and that severely handicaps their agency to escape a harmful situation. And so it's kind of, to put it in really more traditional Catholic language, you might say that feminism is necessary in a broken world that's overcome with original sin, because
Yeah,
you don't have reliable male leadership that could guarantee the safety of women, and women need to be empowered to sort of shape their lives and find their own safety in certain circumstances,
that
and
is
especially,
exactly.
and also when it comes to legal stuff and voting, when you're taking it back to stuff like marriage laws, reproductive rights and stuff, that when you're having laws being legislated that affect your own well-being, your own body, and you don't have a direct say in it, it certainly creates some pretty enormous problems when you have men legislating things that have flesh and blood costs for women's bodies. And so in that sense, feminism emerges as a way to confront those difficulties in the difficulties that would emerge in a primarily male-led society.
Yeah, I mean, one of my theories is that I've been saying this for years is that feminism, especially the 1960s version, does come from. I mean, it gets into a theory, like it's a story. I'm telling you. I'm telling you a story about in the 20th century, maybe even the 19th century, men stopped being good husbands because of liberalism, and you're like, oh, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, have you ever seen Mad Men? Like,
I know
or
of it,
know
but
of
I haven't watched it, but I know of it.
yeah, Mad Men shows you in the 1950s. It's that narrative of the man does whatever he wants. The woman has to stay home and she gets drunk and she's miserable, and the guy is out cheating. It's like that. I do think is a big reason how we got not just 1920s feminism with the 19th Amendment, but 1970s feminism with Roe v. Wade,
Mm.
and that's sort of where because and look, to Erica Kirk's credit, and like Lila Rose, who she said the best thing I've heard endorsing 1920s feminism, which is like, do you want your wife to be like an idiot? Like, don't you
Can you
want to
say that
marry?
last part? Do you want your wife to be what? Sorry, that didn't come through
Do you
clearly.
want your wife to be like an idiot or a child?
Mm.
Because like when these men, these like far right men, describe what they want from a woman, it's like a child.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want your? Because look, I couldn't. I don't know if I could deal with that. I mean, there would be something a bit deadening about. You're right. It's like it's not as beautiful. You're. It's like you described it. It's like functionary. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this is my wife, and she fulfills this function, and
Mm-hmm.
that is it.
Yeah. There's something empty about it.
It's totally.
Speaking of some, in my old homeschooling group, I observed, it was a pretty traditional leaning. It wasn't full on TLM, but my parish was it. It had elements in it that would make Chad proud. It was that sort of culture. Not quite as far, but it was approaching that. But even in our homeschooling group, there were a number of divorces, and one of the common ingredients, and again, this is a correlation. I'm not making a claim that this is a causal relationship, but there was a correlation between the divorces and stay-at-home moms. And one suspicion that I had is that, when you have one spouse that's confined to domestic affairs and not really enriching themselves through exposure to different contexts and widening their social circle, that they're purely in the domestic sphere, and you have a husband that's working and being exposed to lots of different opportunities and lots of different people, and you have someone whose view of the world is expanding, and maybe someone who's and a spouse whose view of the world is static because of being confined at home. And you're right, it is a form of, you're like you said, do you want your wife to be an idiot? I'm not saying not literally an idiot, but there's a certain
Idiot or
limitation.
child.
There's a certain
Yeah.
limitation when you're confined to the home and you stop growing, and you miss out on opportunities to develop yourself so that you're constantly growing, and you can be in a meaningful lifelong discourse with a spouse who's also growing.
And it's like, I know far right people would, again, this is where I really depart from them. They do have a very harsh view of women, which is like they're fucking children.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think the way men do. They just not, it's not there. And
Yeah.
again, it's like, okay, let's say that's true. That's really depressing. That's sad. And what they'll say, and you, by the way, you can get them to say this with pluralism in general and diversity and all that. It's like, it just, and it sounds so basic and it sounds like kindergarten, but it is like this sounds like a very miserable worldview. If
Mm-hmm.
you're just, I have my wife, everyone's white,
Mm-hmm.
and it will stay that way because if not, everything will die.
Yeah.
And these guys will say, "Yeah, that's just the truth. I'm sorry, the truth sucks." And it's like, okay, but like, it does suck, and I'm like, what's the point of that ultimately?
Mm-hmm.
You do. I mean, you're just gonna and every I don't know. It's you're gonna have and this that and that's where they'll say, well, that's where the authoritarianism comes in because if you try to break from that, we fucking kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't deal with your liberal nonsense. We just handle it right from the jump. You say anything liberal, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
We'll beat the shit out of you until the liberalism stops. And it's like, see, and that is really where I understand why I didn't before, but this is where I get why leftists can often hate conservatives in like a very personal way. Which I've always known, but I couldn't grab onto it as emotionally because I've always suspected a lot of leftists come from these really Christian conservative homes where they just saw the whole thing just not work,
Yeah.
and so that what motivates their leftism is this contempt for that family structure. But even I feel like what I said is even deeper because it's like even if it works, quote unquote, it sounds miserable, and they want to enforce that on you at gunpoint.
That's a good point. It's kind of related, as that a lot of people who leave the faith came from very rigid households.
Very, very,
I
very
Are you
rigid.
familiar with the YouTube channel Kevin on Tradicath?
Who?
Yeah,
Oh
Kevin on
my.
Tradicath. He grew up in a pretty rigid TLM community, and now his thing really is kind of just releasing videos that analyze Catholic culture and trad culture, and
Kevin?
often. Hmm?
Kevin, not Stratocat.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another guy though I think he's an atheist now, but he's another one who grew up with this stuff and just left the faith because it was just when
Well,
he was gay.
yeah, Kevin on Tradicath is his content is great. He does like real historical and scientific deep dives on a lot of traditional mythology and problems with the culture and stuff. He's great. So definitely look his stuff up. I think he's. But yeah, it goes back to that idea of people who leave are often the victims of really rigid and harmful upbringings.
Yeah, and I don't blame him, and and then again when you hear someone like Charlie Kirk who was like, "We're gonna make everyone like this,"
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, okay, well, um, no, I do think the celebration of his death from a lot of left-wing people, or even the indifference, was deeply, I mean, almost evil. I mean, maybe it is. I found it very revolting, but stuff like that makes shit. That and the Reaganomics stuff. Anytime I hear someone preach Reaganomics, if I'm in a really bad mood, I will think, see, that's why Charlie Kirk got shot. Because you just want to, it just, it's really bad. It's like I almost don't know what's worse. Like, is it worse that these people are like the fascists, or is it worse because the Ben Shapiro types are like, go get a job, you fucking lazy bum. Like that leads to the fascists as well. Because if you leave everyone to fend for themselves, they're gonna fend for themselves, and they're gonna go for you because you're a fucking rich Jew who will now give me all of your shit, or I'm gonna kill you. Like Reaganomics stuff just breeds. I mean, I've had writers say to me, it's like, yeah, I'm pulling myself up by my bootstraps by deporting 100 million brown people. That's how I'm gonna get a job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing what you told me to do. I found an opportunity, a great opportunity, where I'm going to deport all the brown people, and that's my job now. But yeah, that's a total tangent. But I think I do dislike the Reaganomics people more because I do see them as creating the world we live in. It's like that's on you, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally. Yeah, so I answered my own question. It's great. But no, fuck. But this is just as bad. I mean, again. It's like, this stuff. This is my thing with the rightists is it's like they win and then you realize, oh, this sucks too. It's like, I don't know. There's some about like there's a famous photo of, you must have seen it. It's quite a popular image. It's these two black guys hanging. And have you seen this before? It's like a bunch of white people. They just did a lynching. There's two black people hanging.
I can't
And
think
one
of it
guy's
right now.
pointing out.
If I've come across it, I can't remember it very vividly. So
Okay. So the story goes, those guys did probably the story was they committed a murder and a rape. I suspect they did it, but there's just something about, and again, I know I have a rightist friend from that culture. He's a white Southern guy. He's a neo-Confederate. Like I know this guy, and he would get very bothered if I told him, like, I would not be comfortable with that kind of mentality in my polity, in my society, because there's just some about like, I don't know. It's like and again, he'd say, you're being a pussy." And it's like, maybe, yeah. I'm just there's some, even if these two guys did the crime they were accused of, there's just something about breaking, because they broke down the jail door, they fucking grabbed these guys and they hung them.
mm-hmm.
And the justice has been restored, but that's a liberal. It's a liberal. A lot of liberalism is the fear of power,
Mm-hmm.
and that can fuck you over in certain. The fear of power, I'm convinced, has totally fucked over the working class. Because liberals would argue, yeah, but if we tax the rich, that's using power, and we don't want to do that. And it's let the rich people just destroy the country. But there is definitely something they said of like, okay, we shouldn't probably be doing that. Like, for a deeper guttural reason than like it's wrong or it's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
There's words for it, but they're harder to find than like, that is wrong and evil, and we should have a court of justice and a law. And it's, for me, it's deeper. It's like, I just feels, again, you have all this group of people. I want to white them to white, but this group of people around two dead bodies, and one of the guys pointing at him. See this? That's what happens when you fuck with us. It's like, yeah, I don't know if I want that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, can I vote that out? Like, can I vote you to lose? Because I don't, again, that's a big tangent, but anyway.
Yeah, no, like I'll have to look at that photo, but yeah, no, excellent commentary as always. Yeah.
Did you find that? Just Google lynching. It's the most famous photo. If you Google lynching, that's the most. I think anyone who was in a history class has probably seen the photo because it's the most famous lynching photo. And the thing that matters is, it seems like those guys did it. Because then liberals will say, and this is where they fuck themselves over. I think they go, "Well, we don't know that." It's like, no, it's more interesting if they did it. Because then you still have to sit with, but was the way that was carried out that justice correct? That's more interesting to me and much more fruitful than these guys are innocent and these white people killed them. It's like, no, it's, again, do you want that kind of, because that's called an honor, there's a term for it, it's honor culture, where it's everything's handled by the people themselves and, again, that's the reason why liberalism ever came about, is it protects minorities from the majority. Because without liberalism, you will get, like, the majority will just crush whoever they want. And without any checks against that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm curious, what would you say? I guess, well, you kind of, I said it too, the way out of the right, I guess you could call it it is a crisis, the right wing crisis in the church. I guess you would say it's embracing the more Jesuit mentality, right?
I think so. In my own journey, I think what really kept me in the faith after that burnout I told you, just from growing up in trad culture, was discovering, the social justice tradition and a more Jesuit way of looking through things. And that for me revitalized faith, because I think that for me, the weakness of the trad approach, and the thing about the trad approach that frustrates me and kind of I'm trying to look for the word, not discourage, but maybe something that I find kind of revolting, is this insistence on supernatural theology that's based on the abstract, like things that I understand that we're trying to uphold doctrinal proclamations about scripture and all of that, but these aren't things that we can necessarily encounter in day-to-day life. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to base a worldview on things that you can't encounter. Like, I know you keep asserting that God is the Trinity or Mary was immaculately conceived, and we hold to these things dogmatically, but I'm sorry, that's not helping me provide for my family. That's not giving me consolation when I'm taking care of a dying parent. That's not helping me find a job. Like, it's cool that you've made official rulings on what the story that we all adhere to is, but why are you making that the priority? But whereas, the Jesuit, like, social justice tradition is about how do we, or it starts with the premise of the highest expression of God's love is from the Gospel of Matthew, that we take care of the least of these and we feed the hungry and give drink to the thirsty, and that the love of God cannot be separated from the love of neighbor. And it is that kind of Christianity that we need. And I'll probably piss off the trads, but I think that the honest pursuit of social justice is a higher expression of worship than all of the TLMs combined across the ages.
Yeah, I agree, because one not cynical, but one reason is if you don't have a mentality, a fascist will run roughshod over you. Absolutely, because you have no reason. It's funny. It's kind of like atheist liberals. I just realized. I don't think an atheist liberal, they wouldn't have. Well, yeah, they don't have the tools that you would need to beat a fascist, but neither would these people. Because it's like, I don't know. I don't care about the fascist. I'm what's it called? People are, oh, it's a shift change. I think security guards are coming in.
Oh man, do we have to wrap it up soon?
No, 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 no. We'll see if anyone says anything. But
That's cool.
I just
I probably should get going. Like, I probably got to get going in like 10, 15 minutes, so we can kind of wind it down and tie up all the topics. But
yeah,
I can still chat for a bit. I'm not in a rush.
yeah. What was I saying? Just your, I think what you said is beautiful. Where it's like, again, because one, it's true. Because I've seen it before too. There is a certain emptiness with the TLM crowd. I don't know. I mean, you said it. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there can be an emptiness there that it's not rooted in anything material, and it's like, besides again it being just perfect fodder for a fascist to just come in, just fuck up your whole thing. It's yeah, it's just its own. I don't know. I mean, to be mean a little bit to the trads, like if you compared how many of those people donate to the poor versus the Jesuits, like who do you think? Like you guess is the Jesuits, you know? Like
It's
who's
gonna
the
be the
one helping the
Jesuits.
poor?
Yeah, but there's
Yeah,
also
because
there's a practical reason for that too. The trads are too poor from being forced to have more kids than they can handle. They don't have extra resources to share because wives got to pay the marital debt and they're not allowed to use family
no, I know.
planning tools.
Oh God, I do want to wrap up because that is just so it's so fascinating. I do want to. The three you call them like they're grouped together. The masturbation and I had a funny meme idea
Go for it. Do share.
where it's got to be one of those images where they're pointing two guns at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is like the Mexican standoff thing. You
Okay,
got two
yeah,
guys
yeah.
pointing,
Yeah.
and it's like one guy is the masturbator, the other guy is the contraceptor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like who's you're a sinner. Oh, you're a sinner,
Yeah.
and um they're the same sin though, and it's like I don't know. I mean, what was I going to say about that? I Yeah, you know what? So practically speaking, I don't know. I mean, the Jesuits, because what my again in terms of my sexual habits, I do so over Easter. I decide I'm not going to do the like I'll try that. I didn't jerk off today, like that approach to the because if I had a special button to make me stop doing it, I would.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think yeah, that's kind of what I hang my justification for it. It's like if I had a button, they could stop me from being horny. But then you could get into another, because then you get into like, well, is being horny bad? Like, is it? Oh man, that's a whole. See, what's funny? That is a whole other podcast. I'm serious because it is like, how does one handle? Yeah, you know what? Because it's the question would be, how does one handle sexual desires?
Yeah.
Because I was told by one priest, and you find it on the internet as well, if you have sexual desires, that means you call it marriage.
Which I think is kind of fault. It's like shaky advice. It's unreliable advice. And you're right. That's a total other topic. So maybe as we kind of wind down, we can sort of lay the groundwork as a teaser for a future collaboration. So maybe we can just we can start laying the groundwork for that topic, and that's something we'll follow through next time.
How does one deal with sexual desire? Because we already established that, okay, if you follow the Chad Ripper stuff, it's going to fuck with you. But it's like, well, it's like, it's like, well, what comes after Chad? You know?
For sure. If you don't already, you should definitely follow the Uncharted Catholic Man podcast if you don't already, because they definitely they talk about those kinds of things, particularly in the context of marriage and all of the tensions that come with like the NFP hardliners and the Chad Ripperger types.
Oh, it's okay. Because you actually had a post. I think I watched most of it, but what is your view on natural family planning? Where it's basically.
Oh, my recent essay was actually that video essay was me reading a submission from somebody, so those weren't my own thoughts, but my thoughts about NFP are if it works, amazing, but don't make it a matter of mortal and venial sin. Or sorry, mortal sin. Don't like
Yeah,
be what my yeah. I kind of think that they need to be honest about the fact that it's not reliable because women's cycles are different, and it's also the arguments for NFP as well as just a lot of the details of sexual teaching. My philosophical disagreement with it is it prioritizes philosophical abstractions, and it prioritizes teleology and a kind of legalistic moral correctness
yeah,
over actual human consequences and human flourishing. It kind of prioritizes the theory than over the practical results. And so
yeah.
maybe the proper term for that is maybe I just handle it in a consequentialist way. Like what promotes a better bond between husband and wife, and what promotes better well-being for raising children, a better environment for raising children, and what's practical given your specific circumstances. And for God's sake, stop making it about hell.
Yeah, so I will conclude with this super brief story from a friend who's a big Chad Ripperger fan,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess my thing is because one of the sins of the church that you can do is you can promote sin. That is a sin in and of itself, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
cautious about that. So, talk to your priest. I am not. I disavow everything I just said. But yeah,
Yes,
but
yes. Paul is speaking on behalf of Paul. He is not speaking on behalf of the church.
this is me, not the church. Again, I'm not. I'm not of the lineage of Christ's apostles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I have not been given that authority. I'm just speaking as a layman who hopes I can provide something of use to, again, fellow Catholics who do love God, do want to, because that's why I try not to jerk off.
Mm-hmm.
Try, like, do your best. I would not advise, like, oh, I'm just going to go to town now.
Yes.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? It does. The argument against masturbation is you are objectifying women in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Like if yeah, yeah, I understand that. Well, let me just clarify. I think
if
if you
you're doing
do
it
it,
too much.
if you do that paired with looking at, X-rated material paired with impure thoughts, yes. I guess technically, if you somehow do it with an empty mind, then that might be a different situation.
No, you're right, and it's if you're addicted to it, and again, that's its own podcast because it's look. Another. I'm so glad I remember because the thing I have to emphasize, I do think the reason why the sex teachings are so talked about is most people are not rapists and killers, and most Catholics try to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So you already got rid of most of the sins. So what is left is
You're
the
right.
sexy
You know
stuff.
what? That's a yeah. I mean, I'm a bit biased because I've said something similar in the past, so I'm biased. But I totally agree with you. The way I describe it is it's become an identity marker. It is a form of identity politics to
Oh
really
yeah,
to be heavy handed about that stuff because you're right. It's the only thing that draws a clear line of what separates traditionalist morality from the rest of
totally.
society.
Oh
So
yeah, is that
it's all about boundaries, and it's not even about the merits of the arguments themselves. It's about drawing clear lines and having a topic where you can feel self-righteous.
Oh, that as well. I was just talking like if you ever get too scrupulous, try and read the Bible from the perspective of a former Nazi or a
Mm-hmm.
murderer or rapist, and it'll change how you look at it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like because now when God Jesus Christ is talking about sin, you go, oh, I have sinned, I have hurt people, you know, but I can be a better man, you know. Um, so because what happens like when priests talk about the battle with sin, I always go like, talking about jacking off, aren't you? Or contraception, or if you're married, contraception, you know. But if you go, well, I mean, it's tough because again, most people aren't rapists and killers. So, like, if you imagine medieval times, you know,
How you doing, buddy?
what's up?
You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Anybody told you you're a client?
Yeah,
You got some stellar advice from Pick and Choose. When your hands get idle, start noodling with your new musical toy. Get yourself a musical instrument.
Thank you. It's like a sign from the Lord. I'm all because they're probably gonna mention something, but yeah, I'm good. Oh fuck, I fucked up my whole train of thought. You can edit that out probably. Oh fuck, I hate this. I'm so stream of conscious.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm
You know,
responding to some comments. So Pick and Choose said like, get yourself a musical instrument, and when your hands get idle, start noodling with your new musical toy.
yeah,
So and then
okay,
we've
thank
got
you.
yeah,
I
and also
affirm the church.
yeah, we also got
Don't
a late arrival. We've got New England Anter, aka
what
Jonah 2.0, aka Homo Jonah. Yeah, gay.
stroll.
This is gay Jonah. He's not actually really gay, but we just tease each other. He's yeah,
Oh,
a
you know
friend.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, he's kind of part of the online Catholic crowd. We sort of have we just like we're frenemies. We sometimes say we just talk shit to each other, but nah, he's a really good guy. Really good guy.
Okay.
He's a loving father, good husband, trying to do the best he can. So good to see him in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, just to conclude, because now I think they're gonna probably say something. Anyway, I do affirm the church teaching, but from there,
Bro,
Got to wrap it up.
together. So this is good to know because this is when they change shows. We'll talk. I guess that's probably a good note to end on.
Okay, yeah, maybe like a couple closing comments from each of us, and then I'll let you get going.
I affirm church teaching, but in that affirmation, there's a lot of discussion we had about how to live a proper life. Because most people aren't killers and not rapists. It's very easy to see anytime when you talk about sin, you think sexy stuff, and because it's true. It's just I've done that. You read the confession stuff, and it's like what do you call it? The consciousness thing?
Yep.
Conscience, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only left with like, do you jerk off or not?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you, again, if you're married, did you contracept?
Yeah.
So, and I did realize I can't imagine. Oh, I got to end with this. Thank God, because it's really important because it can show you how damaging this is. So I have a friend who's a big Chad Ripper guy. He quotes him to me and all that stuff. And he said, because I've said like, oh,
that sorry, Pick and Choose just had a funny comment.
guard. I know it's one of those anal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I'm a little annoyed. But I'm homeless. So tell him I'm fucking homeless. And then, anyway, I have a friend, big Chad Ripper guy, and he, I complain about like, oh, no marriage, what the fuck? I can't stop jacking it. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, well, marriage ain't all that fun either. And I never know what he meant. But then he clarified, and he was like, yeah, there's months where me and my wife don't have sex because we do natural family planning. But then she's so scared of having a kid that we just don't do it for months. So I was like, so what do you do? It's like, yeah, I find other things to do. I'm like, oh, no. Oh. Look, maybe that sanctifies him. He would say it sanctifies him spiritually. Mm-hmm. And oh God, he did give me a Chad Ripper quote. He was like, because Chad Ripper said that Chad was like, what did he say? He said something to the effect of, the saints have looked at this time with envy because they're jealous of all the sanctification you get from living in a deeply sinful time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God. Which again, the problem is, yes, if that's how he handles his spirituality, that's cool. That's great. I'm just saying, man, it's like I don't, because he did tell me, because I've thought about like, oh, should I just go be a brother then? If we're not, oh, okay, you have to one final comment. I'm hoping they don't fucking spaz out on me. In fact, let me go over here. Let's see. Let's see something. Let's see if the store's. No, it's fucking closed. Yeah, here we go. 1 second. Anyway, there's one way to handle. Again, I would say the marriage crisis. If you just go and be a brother, not even a priest, but a brother, which I didn't even realize until recently, you can do that. You go be a Dominican or a Franciscan or Dominican. We'll probably talk about that in the next episode because that's its own topic. As in, is that the right way to handle sexuality? It's like, oh, if I can't get married, just go be a brother. My friend did say yes. It's like you should maybe go do that, you know. And I'm like, fuck that now. I don't want to do that. But then he would go, yeah, but what if God is again? So that'll be next episode. Then I would love that This is very important in my spiritual life. So it really is. I do need to talk about this with someone. Glad it's you. But yeah, it's just, I just that admittance of like, yeah, I find other things to do. It's like, okay, so you're not even like, you're kind of married. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. That's it. We'll talk about that. That's its own can of worms. And then he's like, no, but Chad said like there are people who are jealous of how repressed I am. But that's making fun of him a little too much. But it is just like, come on. That's maybe a good note to end on because I don't want to say that. That's not the
it's rough. There's a lot there we can certainly unpack at a later.
I'd love to. That's it. So I'll keep this in mind now. So 11 o'clock is when they get annoyed.
Good to know. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind too.
Well, some good news. I think it's moving out to my own place soon.
Oh. Oh, sorry. I think you got your mic covered again. So.
Oh, I fucking forgot. They're moving me out soon to my own place, I think.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So I'll have my own private space now. I don't have to deal with it.
All right. But yeah, I think hopefully we'll all pray for you. I think everybody in the chat will pray that your situation stabilizes soon.
That'll be. Well, I'll talk about that because it's with my situation. It's not being homeless that fucks me. It's the situation that got me to be homeless and that. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but anyway, thank you for joining me in my first live stream. Thanks for being the guinea pig as I wrangled through some tech issues, and we had a pretty nice, lively chat. I appreciate the spontaneous, authentic, unscripted quality of the conversation, and it was a really nice back and forth. And I'm sure we'll find more time to do this some point. And I hope some of the people in the chat will join too. I'd love to have a chat with you guys.
Let's get a combo going.
Yeah,
help me. I'm serious. I have too many right-wing friends. I need more left-wing friends, but who are also Catholic because there can be an initiative if you have an atheist left-wing person. They just won't get.
I think like me and Pick and Choose, for instance, have talked quite a bit. We sort of occupy an interesting gray area where we can be left wing on some stuff, and then when you don't expect it, we'll be a little bit more conservative. We're sort of politically homeless, and maybe that's something you identify with.
I am so there. That is me. That is everything. That's so much me.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a cheesy line to end on, but for all of you Catholics and non-Catholics who are feeling homeless, Midnight Philosophy has a place for you. So come join the conversation, and we just want a really good, honest, healthy exchange of perspectives, and we'll guarantee that everybody is respectful here.
Thank you so much. That's it.
All right. Farewell, fellow travelers. Catch you soon.
Bye-bye. Whoa.